So today's topic is the leader mindset. It's all about responsible leadership, one of our 4 pillars of leadership. And in this, striving to become a better person, behaving responsibly towards your colleagues, and making companies or organizations thrive by developing sustainable business opportunities to solve the challenges of today's world. We're joined this morning by Tosin Bolaji for his presentation, followed by the reflection of Omololo Sorinolu. A little bit about Tosin. Tosin is a seasoned HR professional with expertise in talent development, performance management, business partnering, and leadership development. He has worked across diverse sectors spanning non-profit, agriculture, education, health, insurance, and telecoms, with local and multinational organizations. Known for driving business outcomes through strategic problem solving and stakeholder engagement, Tosin is also passionate about youth empowerment and personal growth. And he has led several impactful projects focused on leadership and economic development. He's also the author of a book called Understanding Purpose, Vision and Planning, which is said to be a life-transforming book that distills practical wisdom for maximum individual potential. Tosin holds a degree in chemical engineering from the University of Lagos. He is an associate member of the CIPM in Nigeria and is a certified talent developer by the ATD Certification Institute of the United States. Our reflector today is Omololo. Omololo graduated from the Federal Polytechnic Ilario with upper credits in secretarial administration. She worked for several years in real estate, such as Property Mart Limited, Grenadines Home, and Polton Morgan Holdings, in different capacities, such as secretary, project secretary, then rose to the position of personal assistant to the group managing director. Omololo is a member of the Learning and Development Network International, a student of Business School Netherlands, a Rotarian, and currently a retail underwriter in Mutual Benefits Assurance PLC, also undergoing Chartered Insurance Institute of Nigeria's certification. During the presentation today, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. We will come back to you on these questions during the Q&A towards the end, after the presentation and the reflection. Tosin, over to you.
Thank you very much, Jean. Good morning, Business School Netherlands, and good morning to everyone joining the call. I could see from the chat room from Canada, from Lagos, from Croatia, really a melting pot of leaders here this morning. I'm happy to be a part of this call, and I'd like to share about something that makes our leadership very effective. I call it the leader's mindset. Now, the leader's mindset is something that you most likely will not see on a leader's KPI for the year. It's not something you would see on a leader's job description for getting into the role. Most times, it's not even something that you would see on the dashboard of a leader, on a monthly performance check, on a quarterly, half-year, or annual performance check. But it's very critical and foundational. It's like the root of a tree that you never really see, but that holds the tree, that holds the rest of the system together, the leader's mindset. And it's important for us to pay attention to this because it sets the tone for our team. It sets the tone for how our people behave. It's not tangible, but it is always there. Now, 3 things I would like to speak about as I go to the next slide. Okay. Trying to move to the next slide.
Timoteo or Lere, can we move to the next slide, please?
He's the one controlling his own slide, so he has to move it.
Okay, just give me a second, please. I'll reshare shortly. Please just give me a moment. Thank you. Okay, thank you. So the first thing I'd like to start about is starting with why. Where I come from in Southwest Nigeria, there is a light-hearted saying, but then it bears some similarity to what I'm about to share. So in Southwest Nigeria, there's a saying that a father will never really join a race when you tell him to run along. But if you play a prank on him to say, that's the man, arrest him, then he begins to run. It looks like a funny story to share, but the reality is the interpretation of that is that the first time you tell an adult to run, they'll ask you why. Because we're driven by purpose. We're driven by understanding the reason behind doing things. So when you tell the man, that's the man, arrest him, even if it's a prank, he has a picture in his mind. He has an understanding that something is at stake if I don't take action. The why is clearer to him. So he runs. It's a corollary to what we experience as leaders within the workplace. People usually don't follow tasks. They follow purpose. They can get the task done the way you want it done, and then that's it. The next time they need to bring their initiative on board, they might lean on you as the leader because there's a way you want the task to be done. But when they understand the purpose, their creativity comes alive, their motivation comes alive, and then they can figure out the how by themselves, even when you're not around. So starting with why helps to draw your team members, the people that you lead, to the bigger picture of the task at hand. And then they will be able to move from start to finish. We all want our people to be creative. We all want them to take ownership, which I'll speak to later. But the first place to begin as leaders is to start with the why. A lot of times we hire people, like I am an HR professional, and I've seen senior leaders several times hire people that they expect to be experienced hires. So as an experienced hire, if I bring you into the job, you should know what to do, right? And you should be able to hit the ground running. But then the reality is, even though the person has the skill, the person does not necessarily understand the mission of the organization. The person does not necessarily understand the culture of the new organization. The person might not understand why we do things the way we do them. Very light example. Someone who is coming from an organization where autonomy is the order of the day. I get my task done, start to finish. So I'm used to doing things that way. If the same person moves into a new organization where you really have to engage with other people before you make your decisions, that person might come in and be in conflict with the new culture. So it's important as leaders to not assume that our experienced hires or even our new hires understand how things are done around here. A reminder is not harmful. It's only helpful for our teams. And the more we begin to share with them from time to time, we begin to help them understand the purpose of the team and how it plays a part in the bigger picture, then our people will be able to act more effectively, especially when you are not there as the leader. I'm moving now to my second point, which is psychological safety. Now, I'm sure if we ask our teams, do you feel safe in the team? Most likely you would hear yes. And that's because they want to play safe by the leader's playbook. But building psychological safety is beyond what I say or what you say as the leader. I can tell my team to trust me. I can compel them to do certain things, but I can't command them to trust me. Trust is something that is earned, is something that is cultivated, and it is the bedrock for building psychological safety. Let me flip the coin a little bit. The absence of psychological safety means that my team, my people, will begin to walk on eggshells because they're trying to stay protected. Rather than using their energy to be innovative, they're trying to use their energy to protect themselves. And because of that, they cannot bring their full self into the work that they do. All right? When innovation is punished because there is a mistake, then that's psychological safety absent. All right? When leaders react rather than respond, and this is very important because critical moments or a huge withdrawal of trust. So moments where we need to have difficult conversations, moments where, for instance, there's a big fallout and someone in the team has to take the fall for it. Will it be my team member or will it be myself as the leader? When as leaders, we choose our response, even in the heat of the pressure, in the heat of the urgency, it's a great opportunity for our team members to deposit trust in us as the leader. And that is what builds psychological safety. So it's not about me telling my team to trust me or to feel comfortable around me. It's in how I demonstrate creating an enabling environment where they can be themselves, where they can fail and learn without judgment. Yes, with feedback that is constructive and that is corrective, but that does not make an employee or a team member to be less of themselves. That's very important and helpful. When leaders respond and don't react, we open up the room for psychological safety to thrive. All right. You might see in the image to the left side of the screen, it says mistakes are learning opportunities. But there seems to be some typographical error there. That is actually deliberate, because sometimes we want everything to be perfect. But look at the team in that image. They're interacting with each other. There's no fight going on. There's no conflict really going on. The energy is supportive. Is it perfect? No. But is the team cohesive? Yes. We need that a lot in building an environment where our people can thrive. Remember what I started with. Our people, our leaders' mindset is not something you would often see, on the dashboard or somewhere on the KPI. But these are the things, these are the driving mechanisms for helping our teams stay effective and doing the things that are actually documented. My final point for this morning is facilitating ownership. I strongly believe that a leader's core responsibility is not to raise other followers, is to release owners, okay? To release people who can get the job done with their own ingenuity, creativity, autonomy, strong relationships within the workplace, strong collaborative mindset. That's really the job of a leader. Not just to command, to direct, to instruct, to micromanage, to dole out instructions. A leader's job is properly done when the leader is less needed and is on the sidelines. I once worked with a senior leader who, was lamenting someday to me and said, I feel like quitting this job. And I said to him, why? He said, because when I groom my people and I'm ready to deploy them, all of a sudden the business comes to take them and, deploy them to other places as leaders. And I asked him, I said, is that a problem? He said, yes, it's a problem because it means it has to build people from the scratch again. And yes, I will agree to that point. Leadership or leading other people is not a walk in the park. It's not something that happens overnight. It takes time. It takes a process. Sometimes you don't even see the results immediately. But when you do begin to see the results, it's quite fulfilling. The person who I just shared his story with you, when I had the conversation with him again, he then realized what he had been doing, was actually deploying what I've been speaking about on the leader's mindset. He has been building an environment safe enough for his people to learn, for his people to make their mistakes, for his people to even disagree with him, because they have better ideas, and he's able to run his team that way. Another thing he has been able to do is to build their confidence so much that they could take decisions really without him having to be in the picture of every decision that they're making. So if the business found him as a leader who they could harvest other leaders from, then I think the work of leadership has been perfected. When we had that conversation, and yes, I agree, it's difficult to raise people from the scratch. As we facilitate ownership, one thing we must keep in mind is the fact that more than ever before, we now have a very multi-generational workforce, right? We had the generation of, the millennials and a little bit before them who follow instructions, who are very methodical, who are very collaborative. But then we have now the Gen Zs, and we have Gen Alphas, in some climes already. And what you begin to realize is that their approach is very different. Their attention span seems very short. They're very curious. They question process. Done in 5 minutes. I don't need to follow the playbook. I don't need to follow all the process you have put in place. How do you deal with such people when they seem to be in conflict with what you have known as a leader, or with the experience you have always had as a leader? For me, I'll say coach them. As a leader, we have the experience of what has worked to date and what hasn't worked, but we might not have as much curiosity as the workforce that is coming behind. Both are very important. The experience on one hand, as the wing of a bird, it is where the leader is able to coach the curiosity of the younger generation and helping them to realize that their curiosity is not a disadvantage. It is actually an advantage, right? So the work of a leader in that situation should be to coach, should be to ask those salient questions, those pivotal questions that can guide their curiosity as they are bringing their new energy to the workplace. Because you would agree with me, the chances are higher that their curiosity will bring about a new innovation, a faster way to get things done, possibly a process overhaul that we were not privy to in our earlier days. The fresh pair of eyes is a great asset to any organization, to any team, to any leader. So as we facilitate ownership, we give them an opportunity to express themselves. And on the sideline as the leader, we provide guidance where it's needed. Another thing I like to do personally is to ask my team, how can I help? That for me changes the question from go and do this, go and do that. And he makes my team to think, okay, my leader wants to help. That means I'm in charge. Okay, so what can I tell him to do? I've had situations where, my team members will come with a lot of anxiety, agitation, or they need to get this done and that. And I'd say to them, okay, I hear you. How can I help? And then they say, I don't know how you can help. Just tell me what to do. I say, no, you tell me what to do. You can be right, you can be wrong, but go ahead. Let's have a conversation about it. And as they begin to do that, what we begin to notice is that they start taking ownership. They start leading the conversation. Even when they are unsure, I smile along, I nod, and we move on about it. Now it's easier for me. Initially, it can be difficult getting them to make that leap from taking order to actually setting direction and getting feedback from the leader. That's what facilitating ownership, really is about. It's not about the leader giving the command. It's about the leader guiding the command that has been given by the team member. I believe that if we do these three things, we will further solidify or consolidate our leadership mindset, and our people will be the better for it. Because when we start with why, they will understand not just the why, but the how. When you're not in the room, they will be able to act with conviction. And then secondly, when you go back a little. Yeah, when you build psychological safety, your team is able to trust you more and trust each other more. Trust is a fuel that cannot be infused just like that. But when it does exist, the team will go above and beyond the call of duty. Finally, is when we facilitate ownership, our team become real owners. And as the leader, we free up ourselves to do more strategic things, which is building our people and then setting the direction for where they should end. As I wrap up my presentation this morning, I'll leave you with this quote. This was my reflection when I started preparing for this session. It says, the real scorecard of leadership is not how well your team performs when you're present, it's how boldly they execute when you are absent. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Tosin, for that insightful presentation. Really thought-provoking. Thank you. I'm going to ask Omolola to reflect for us, please.
Omolola appears to have gone off, I think, due to technical reason. We have not been able to see her on the list yet. When she's back, she may be able to speak. But I can just sum up briefly why people prepare for their questions and write their questions on the chat room to reflect on what Oluwatosin has spoken about. Oluwatosin spoke on the leadership mindset. He had information about the fact that the leader's mindset is totally different. The way of a genuine leader's thinking is different. The way they see things, the way they respond to things are different. And rather than being reactive, they are supposed to be proactive. A leader's influence, she should not be shaped with authority, but with character, vision, and intention. And it's able to understand the fact that leadership can actually be applicable in government, in education, in community, everywhere. He spoke about the need to have vision orientation. And at the heart of that mindset, which is vision, they want a leader should not be consumed with short-termism, but rather with long-term, to set direction, to inspire belief, and to be able to promote team spirit and promote trust within the team. A leader is supposed to be growth-oriented and simultaneously be learning-oriented. With the right mindset, sees growth as continuous journey. A leader is supposed to be committed to learning, because a learner will always become a leader. So you have to invest in yourself, in the team. You have to ask questions, get feedback, no matter how difficult it might look like. You need to learn how to lead voraciously. You must learn from the experience. In fact, the presenter made a typical example that where I deliberately made mistake in writing. And he says, mistakes are opportunities for learning. And in the midst of mistake, you can learn from negative experience, you can learn from positive experience. So mistakes are opportunities for learning. A leader is supposed to show resilience and emotional intelligence in an environment that is rapidly is becoming risky and riskier. And so resilience is important, persistence, focus is critical. Resilient leaders don't give up when things go wrong. Rather, they regroup they reframe, they challenge themselves, they return with greater clarity. The steady presence in crisis period builds trust. We spoke about need for ownership. In every team, people must hold themselves accountable and responsible. And so in a tree cannot make a forest. Leaders with the right kind of mindset take full ownership for their actions and decisions. They don't blame other people. They don't give excuses. They accept responsibility for outcomes. They go for results. And so they inspire others to do the same. And at times they replicate that leadership qualities in other people. And so it's not easy to build leaders. So that's why a number of leaders are unhappy when you take their best away to other departments. So, but before I close the book, there's a need to know that leadership mindset is also a mindset of service and empowerment, where great leaders do not lead for personal glory. They try to empower other people. They see leadership as stewards, and they're always thinking about who can I serve. The servant leader mindset fosters loyalty, and they listen deeply. They invest in other people's growth. A leader is also adaptable, and a good leader's mindset is filled with strategic thinking, ability to see, not just with foresight, but with foresight. Not just to see the present, but to see far into the next 5 to 10 years, and to see into the next generation. And they anticipate trends, they weigh risk, they make informed decisions, and they are not paralyzed by uncertainty. They have the right mindset to step back to assess the big picture and move forward. In conclusion, I think there's a need for each and every one of us to think like leaders. And the best way to really think like leaders is for us to understand that ultimately, leadership begins, and indeed, in the mind. And before a leader would have cause to really act, he would need to think, he would need to, before he can start to influence other people, like Tosin mentioned, he would need to have a deep thought. He would need to have a process that sharpens his thoughts and attitudes. A leader's mindset is not inherited. It can be learned. Leader's mindset can be cultivated through intentional reflection. It can be cultivated through continuous learning. It can be cultivated through purposeful living. It's everyday decision that you take that determine what kind of mindset you have. And to develop a leader's mindset is to be committed to growth, to vision, to service, to make impact, whatever you do, in order to leave a legacy, not for today's generation, but for tomorrow's generation. Leaders' mindset should be such that you are ceaselessly planting trees, even when you are already 150 years old, knowing fully well that the tree you planted today, the seed that you planted today for a tree to germinate, will be useful for the next generation. Because somebody else planted the tree upon which you are using as a shade today. So a leader must therefore look beyond the immediate, act with integrity, must be able to rise above circumstances and resilience, and with resilience and hope. In a world that hungers for transformation, what we need most are not just people who are in positions of power with titles. What we need today are individuals who dare to think, who dare to transform, who dare to lead, who dare to live with the mindset of true leaders. And the world is hungry for this type of leadership. Thanks to Tosin and thanks to Jane for giving the opportunity to reflect on behalf of Omolola Shinyolu. Thanks.
Thank you, Lere, for that reflection. Indeed, I'm looking at the chat, and although there aren't any questions for you, Tosin, I think you're getting off lightly on this one. There definitely are some reflections also from the audience. I'm going to perhaps read 3 of the highlights to you, and thanks again from everyone for this morning's presentation. Just some thoughts shared by the participants or the audience on the line. Abiola shares that leadership does not happen overnight, and I think we can definitely align to that. Lucy commented that we need to coach and ask the salient questions to guide their curiosity, and that will bring new perspective. And then one last thought, let me quickly find it. Thank you so much, Tosin. This was from Humphrey. Humphrey says, you gave me the right inspiration and gave me the tools and trust to go on with the inviting, respectful style. So overall, Tosin and everyone on the line, thank you very much for joining this morning. Tosin Omolola, this has really been insightful. Thank you for everyone that joined us. If you want to know more about Business School Netherlands Impact Center for Great Leadership, or if you're interested in a program to further grow your talent of your team or yourself, just put that in the chat and we will contact you. And to everyone else also, please be on the lookout for more information about our next session of Good Morning BSN. We look forward to welcoming you there. That brings to a close this morning's session, everyone. Thank you for joining. Have a good day.